had some additional questions that he's going to share with me that I will address. I'm going to pause throughout this session if you have questions, because again, we're going to go for about an hour and a half. So I want to be able to address questions as you have them, but please, if you can wait until I pause and turn it over to you guys for questions, I would very much appreciate that. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and we're going to start with the very basics, which is just getting yourself logged in, right? And so I've gone to, you can actually just go to scarlettnetwork.com, and that's going to bring you to our company website. And from there, you're going to see that there's a sign in button in the top right corner. So you can go ahead and click that sign in button, and that's going to bring you to the login page. You might want to bookmark this so that it's available to you in the future, so you don't have to, re-navigate back to scarlettnetworks.com. You're going to put in your username, which is going to be your Rate Shop email address. And then for your password, you're going to hit the Forgot Password button. We actually don't set passwords for you initially, so you'll hit Forgot Password. That's going to initiate a password reset process, and that's going to get you logged in. Okay, because we're recording, I'm going to keep moving. If some of you want to follow along and do that yourselves, please feel free to do so. But I'm going to keep pushing forward for those of you that are simply watching what I'm doing. So I'm going to get myself logged in, and that's going to bring me to our business desktop. Your screen is going to look a little bit different than mine. You're not going to have nearly as many icons as I have. I want to talk about the three primary icons, or the two primary icons that you'll need for the system. The first is Scarlett Mortgage. Scarlett Mortgage is the system that you're going to be working in. This is where you're going to do all of your mortgage file creation and submission and all the supporting work that goes with it. And then we also have this thing right here that's called Scarlett Mortgage Knowledge Base. Scarlett Mortgage Knowledge Base is going to become your best friend. Okay, so this is a tool that you can run in parallel to your business. And this is just basically a database of how-to articles, short videos. So for example, I can go to the Getting Started section and I can learn all about, setting up my mortgage application. If I come in here, there are videos available for me. There are step-by-step instructions. So I do encourage each and every one of you to explore this and familiarize yourself with it. You can just simply search through this for any topic that you're looking for, and it's going to bring up the article or the piece of information that you're looking for. Okay, so that again is the Scarlett Mortgage Knowledge Base. Okay, but we're going to spend all of our time focused on Scarlett Mortgage. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and that's going to bring me to my deal dashboard, to the main screen of Scarlett. Okay, now if you've never used Scarlett before, you're not going to have anything showing on screen like I have here, but what you're seeing are all of my deals that I've written over time. Okay, so let's just quickly orient ourselves as to what it is that we're looking at and how to do a basic navigation of the system. You can see down the left-hand side are all of the different sections of the system. As I mentioned, Scarlett is a really big system, and we're not going to focus on all of this today. But just so you're aware, the different modules of the platform are all available to you down the left-hand side of the page. To return back to this main page, our deal dashboard, that is what we call apps and deals. Okay, so when I click on apps and deals, that's going to refresh my page and bring me back to my deal dashboard. Okay, now if I simply want to start a new mortgage file, I can click on the new button, and that's going to allow me to then select exactly what it is that I'm trying to build. I've got somebody from your office calling me. Just give me 1 second here. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Okay, so as I mentioned, what I've done is I've hit the new button, and that's allowed me to start a new mortgage file, approval, pre-approval, what's the application purpose, and I'm going to select myself as the agent on deal. I'll click next, and that's going to start a brand new file. We're going to look at what it looks like to fill a file out in a moment, but we're going to come back to our main dashboard. I've got a search bar here. This search bar is actually going to allow me to search all of my data across all of the different systems that I've used. So I guess maybe just, Joe, if I can ask you to chime in for me here. What are the systems that people have used historically? Is it just Filogix and Finmo?
Yes.
Okay. So we're already connected to your Filogix database. We will need your Finmo API keys in order to get your Finmo data in here. But it will all be made available and visible on this screen here. And this search bar is going to allow you to search for any of those deals. So you can search by the deal number, by the applicant name, by the address. So you see if I just type in a client's name, I hit enter, it brings up any deals that I've done with them in the past. Okay. This is what we call just a view toggle button. So I can switch from this view to a list view if you prefer to, visualize your business this way. You can use that view or you can use this view. It really doesn't matter. And then lastly, in the top right corner, we have the filters button. When you click on the filter, it's going to show you a screen that looks like this, where it's saying the application source is in Scarlett Mortgage. And what this means is we're telling the system what to display on our deal dashboard here, right? And so right now, I'm only looking at files that were created on Scarlett Mortgage. Because you've never worked in Scarlett Mortgage yet, you'll have no deals. So what you can do is you can add expert and you can add FINMO. Okay. Now you're not going to get your FINMO data right away, but your expert data should populate immediately. So you can go ahead and hit save. And then hit save one more time. And then simply by refreshing your page, the system is going to bring up all of your expert data. Okay. Now, again, we don't have access to your FINMO data yet. We're going to talk about how to get that into the system on today's call. But if you go ahead and set up your default filter to show Scarlett Mortgage, Expert, and FINMO, we will ultimately be able to get all that data into the system and visible on screen there, okay? Before I move forward, does anybody have any questions about what we've just talked about? If you do have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. Okay. So what you can see now, none for now. Okay, perfect. So you can see that we have a series of different headers. This is what we call a Kanban board. So it's all of the different statuses of all of your files with respect to submission to lender, all the way through to a file being paid and finalized. And you'll have your deals sitting in all of these different categories. When you start a new file, it will automatically show up here in the new column. When you submit that file to a lender, it will automatically move into the submitted column. And when that lender response comes back approved, you're going to automatically see it move into the approved column and so on and so forth. Okay. Now you do have the ability, you can see at the bottom of every deal, we have a change status button. So if you have a file that's, for example, being submitted to a private lender, you could manually change that status by clicking change status and updating the status that you want to put it in. You have the ability to copy an application and you have the ability to edit an application. For the transactions that you've done in the past that were written on Filogix or on FINMO, you will not have the ability to edit or change the status on those files because those are not files that are native to Scarlett. You'll only have the ability to copy one of those applications. So moving forward, what you'll do is you'll take all new files will start in Scarlett, and you're going to finish those deals that you've already started on, say, FINMO or on Filogix. You're going to finish them over there. And as you finish working those files, they're going to automatically update into Scarlett. Okay, so there will be a brief period where you'll work in both systems. Okay, once you've closed out that last file in Filogix or in FINMO, then you'll be fully moved over into Scarlett. Okay, so I'm just going to clear that out and just point out a few other things about a file. So a file shows you a couple of things on the main dashboard. It gives you your deal number, obviously. It's going to give you some information about the property or the subject property, the application date, the closing date, the type of file, and then below here you've got your applicants and their current address. Okay, now below that you can see I've got this button that says new tag, and that's what all of these things are. These are little notes that I've left on the file. So for example, I could type Great Shop and tag that file, and now I can use that to search. It's going to allow me to search my files based off of the tags that I put on them. So what we see a lot of people do is they'll tag a file with a date for conditions or, docs pending or, maybe they've got a follow-up date that they want to put in there. You can do all that by tagging your files. You can see that right here on the deal dashboard, and that becomes searchable. Okay. At the very bottom of the deal, you can see my name, but I've also got multiple names on here. I've got Devontae's deals. I've got Scarlett Training's deals. I've got a series of agents' files on my dashboard, and that's because my system is set up as a principal broker or as a manager. You will likely only see files with your name on them. If you do have additional people's files, like Joe, for example, since I think you handle a lot of underwriting, and perhaps for different agents, you're going to have the ability to actually see other people's files, and you'll be able to search through them based off of the agent on deal or the deal owner, the file owner themselves. Okay. So that's the main dashboard. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I've covered or looked at here on the main dashboard before I move forward? Okay. There are a few things that we want to do before we get started working in the system, just to get your basic setup out of the way. And that's going to take us over here to the settings section. I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to go to apps and deals. And then from the application tab, I'm going to open up my application 3.0. And what you're going to do is you're going to create your mortgage application. Now you can see here, I have a whole bunch of links already created. These are all of my different mortgage applications. You're not going to have a big long list on your account. In fact, you'll probably have nothing. Okay. If you do have one link, you can open that one up. If not, you're going to go to create a new link. You're going to give your link a name. It's going to be one word, or it could be, there could be no spacing in it. So you can do first name, last name, and you'll click OK. And that's going to create your first mortgage application link. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to create the experience that our clients go through for the online application. So I'm going to use this one here that I've already created called Broker Demo. You'll come to a page that will look like this. And so my link name is already created. And down below here, this is all of the configuration that I can do to my mortgage application. Okay, so what we're going to end up with at the end of the day is something that looks like this. We're going to end up with a mortgage application with our branding on it, with our brokerage logo, but we need to configure that in order to make that happen. So to do that, I'm going to go through these different sections, and we'll start with theme and content. We will default you to English as the preferred language. There are a series of images that can be cycled through on the main right here, right? So I've selected to use just this image, but you can choose to use all these different images. And then what that will do is it will actually allow me to cycle through those images. When my clients visit my mortgage application, this image can change. Okay, so again, you can choose which images you want to use or not use. We have a login page title. Mine says, let's get your application started, apply in minutes. That's right here. But you can go ahead and update that to say whatever it is you want it to say. Okay. And then the rest of this, I'm going to encourage you to leave as is. We also have the ability to set the primary colors, the primary and secondary colors. So that's going to impact the color scheme. For example, the buttons that are on the mortgage application. So you can bring that in line with the Rate Shop branding. Load up the Rate Shop brokerage logo. And I've also added something called a favicon. The favicon is this little icon here on the tab of the web page. It's not necessary that you upload a favicon, but I do recommend it. When a client has multiple windows open, it just makes it easier for them to identify which one is your mortgage application. Okay. The next section or segment data is the search engine data and metadata. So things like the page title, you can see here, my page title for this is online application. I could go ahead and change that if I wanted to. I can add a description to this. And I've actually added some keywords here as well. These keywords are going to make your mortgage application become more searchable. If you use keywords like lowest rates, or words like mortgage broker, you have to remember that there will be a lot of other people out there who have used the same keywords. So find something that's unique to your business, unique to the segment of the market that you service. For example, if you specialize in reverse mortgages or maybe HELOCs, you can put in those keywords to make your mortgage application more searchable through search engine optimization. Okay. The next section is the application purpose. You can turn on or turn off any of these different financing options that you offer. We have the application settings. So this is really the meat and potatoes. This is the most important part of configuring your mortgage application. These are all the different sections of the application that we're going to request information from our client with. So for example, do I want to ask for a social insurance number in the online application? If I do, I leave that to say show. If I don't want to ask for a social insurance number, I hide it. Okay. When I'm showing it, I have the ability to make it optional or make it required. So I think it's always best to make things optional where possible. What we don't want to do, in my opinion, is stop somebody from filling out an application because you've made a certain section a requirement. I've had lots of brokers who have debated me on that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's your business, right? So if you think that it's critical that you get the social insurance number up front, then you can go ahead and make that required, right? And there are other sections in here that will be on by default. So address history, income and employment history, assets. We have liabilities turned off. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to get your liabilities when you pull a bureau. So I don't think you necessarily need to ask for those. You certainly can if you want to. And then we have some additional questions in here, some around insurance. Do they have a realtor? Do they have a solicitor? And we even have the ability to make custom questions. So there's something in an online application that you're not capturing today that you want to capture. You can turn on custom questions, and then you can build your own questions. So we've done some silly stuff in here we just done a popularity contest. The question is, who do you like more? And it's 3 members of our Scarlett office here. And you can turn this into a multiple choice question, a single choice, a linear scale, or you can leave it up to them to answer questions in short answer or paragraph. Okay. So you feel free to come in. You can make multiple questions if you want to. Well, these are some more, I think, probably realistic questions. How did you hear about me? How likely are you to refer me? Use your imagination, and you can add these questions and remove them if they're not being filled out, or you can optimize them and change them as you go. Okay. And then below here, we've got the application summary and tools. I'm going to leave this on. I'm going to set this only for deal statuses that are closed and funded and paid and finalized. What this does is it gives the client the ability to log back into the application post-funding and view the status of that application. So what do I mean by status? Well, they'll be able to track maturity date, balance at maturity, view their current rate, who's the lender that they're with. All of that information will be available to them. So it's a resource for them even after the mortgage is closed and funded. Okay. And then below here, I want to jump over to the document collection section. This is, I think, another really critical piece of the mortgage application. We're going to you can choose to turn this on or not, but what it does is it allows the system to request documents from the client automatically. If you're a Finmo user, you'll be familiar with a similar feature that Finmo offers. We do things a little bit differently in that we ask you, do you want to do this in-app or post-app? So in-app means quite literally the client will fill out the application, and then before they submit it, we're going to ask them to send us documents as well. Versus post-app, where the client will fill out the online application, they'll press submit, and then the system is going to follow up with a request for documents. When anybody ever asks me which one they think they should use, which one I prefer, I always say post-app document collection. I think it's much more important that you collect the application as opposed to having somebody stop and not submit an application to you because they haven't got all their documents together, right? I'd much rather have them submit documents later that day or maybe a few days later, but still get that application in my hands so I can start pulling a bureau, I can start preparing the file for submission. I'd much rather get that application in first. Okay. And then at the bottom of the page, we have my profile. and I'm going to encourage you all to fill this out as much as possible. This again is going to be what populates here, right? So my licensing information, contact information, my office, my social media links. I've also uploaded my headshot, and that was all done right here. And then at the very bottom of the page, I'm going to hit save. Okay. Now you only need to create one link. Okay. That link is the link that you can give to all of your clients. You can put it on your website, your social media pages, in your email signature. To get that link, you'll just simply come back to your settings and you can see right there is your link. Okay. You can copy that link and put it wherever you want online. Now, I'm not going to expect that all of you memorized all of that. So I'm going to remind you that we have the Scarlett Mortgage Knowledge Base, and I can go to Getting Started, and there's a section for setting up your mortgage application. And that will walk you through all the steps that we just went through. It's going to help you finish and bring your application up to speed with where you want it. Okay. Now, last thought on the mortgage application before I pause for questions. I also have you can see I have multiple versions of my mortgage application. And the reason for that is that, well, there's two reasons. One is I can track the performance of this application. So if you want to, you could create a mortgage application for your LinkedIn page. You could create a mortgage application for your Facebook page, for your Instagram page. You could create one just for your email signature, and you could create one for your website. Those are just examples, right? You could create multiple versions of your application. The application itself could be exactly the same, but it would be its own unique link. And as a result, you see here, I can track how many applications I've received from that source. So I got 5 applications here. I got 3 here. I got 24 here. This one is outperforming all of them. So that might be the one that is on my email signature. That might be the one that is on my website. What that does is it tells me where my business is coming from. Especially important for anybody who does any, pay-per-click advertising, for example, or they're driving people to an Instagram page through advertising or Facebook business page via advertising dollars. You want to know that those advertising dollars are converting into applications, and this will give you that knowledge. Okay. And lastly, what I've done is I've created other applications for my referral partners. Okay. So Keith Burton, the one that I've highlighted here, he's a realtor. Okay. Keith is my primary source of referral business. So what I've done is I've created a mortgage application in Keith's name. Okay. And I've set it up just like my application. But what I've done is I've turned on co-branding. And I've actually added Keith's information to this mortgage application. Okay. Now what that's done, if I preview this, you'll see it creates a co-branded mortgage application with myself and Keith on the application. So the idea here is that we take this application and we provide it to our referral partners. If I have 5 key realtors that refer me business, I'm going to take 5 minutes for each one, and I'm going to create a mortgage application. I'm going to slap their name, their image, their brokerage logo onto that application, and I'm going to send them that online link. Okay. The next time that Keith gets a new client, and he inevitably asks, have you been pre-approved yet? And the client says no. He says, great, I'm going to send you a link to an online application. Andrew's the best mortgage broker I know. He'll help you out in facilitating the mortgage application. Okay. And again, because we are tracking the application count on all of these, I will know exactly how many applications I receive from my referral sources. Okay. So I'm going to pause there. Are there any questions around that?
So far, so good.
Okay. You guys are still with me? Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do.
Yes.
Excellent. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up your email account to the system. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow all the communication that leaves Scarlett to appear as though it's coming from your Rate Shop email. So Joe, if I can just put you on the spot, are you guys all using Gmail or Outlook for your Rate Shop emails?
No, we have our own email server.
You have your own email server.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. So what you'll do is then you're going to go to email accounts. And you can see I've added a series of different email addresses. This allows me to actually communicate from each one of these different email addresses. You're going to add an account and you're going to select other in that case because you've got your own server. And I'm not sure who at your office will have the server information, but you'll need to collect that information from that individual and input it into here so that your email address can be synchronized to the system. Okay. If you don't
Yeah, all of them
synchronize an
have
email account,
access to the email server.
excuse me?
All of them have access to the details of the email server.
Perfect. Perfect. So you'll go ahead and add that email account. You're going to end up with an account that shows up here. And then there are a few things that you want to do. Primarily is adding your email signature. So very, very simple. You're just going to enable your signature. You're going to take an email from, I use Outlook, for example, right? So I'll take that and I'll copy it and I'll just come in here and I'll paste it, right? And then you'll hit save at the bottom of the page. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, if you do have more than one email address that you communicate from, you can feel free to add multiple email addresses. The other section that you're going to want to just be aware of or be familiar with is the incoming system notifications. So Scarlett is populated with a whole bunch of notifications so that you don't have to constantly be checking the system, right? So when a client fills out an online application, right? Client comes in, starts the application, then submits it to you. You're going to get notified when a new online application is received. We have a function that allows you to retrieve clients' bank statements. When that's been authorized, you'll get notified. When clients upload their documents to you, you'll get notified. When your lender responses come in, and so on and so forth, right? So these are all set up and turned on by default, but if there's some of them that you don't want to be notified on, you can come in and just turn them off. But what I'll also point out is that, I'm just going to remove that, I can add additional emails to the notification list. So let's say I have an assistant and I want them to be notified every time a new online application is received. I can add a notification recipient. And we're going to choose the notification type online application received. And I'm going to put in Andrew's assistant at gmail.com. And now that email address is added to the list of notification of recipients when I need to, when the system's going to send out that notification. Okay. So again, these are all turned on by default. You can come in and make edits to them. I just wanted you guys to all be aware of where to find this if you need to make changes. Okay. So once you've created your application, once you've synced your email account, you're ready to start working in Scarlett. I will point out, and I will send instruction for everybody on doing this, but we also have the ability to bring in your Finmo data. And in order to do that, you need to do what's called a data sync. Okay, so from this tab on the settings, I go to data sync. I click Lendesk Finmo, and then I have to add the API key details. I'm going to send you guys the instructions. Again, also, that can be found in here, I'm pretty sure. No, it's not in here, so we're going to send it to you as a separate copy. But your API key information goes in here, and that's going to synchronize your data into Scarlett so that your Finmo data is visible on the main dashboard. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to just quickly pretend as though we're a client because I want you guys to experience the online application a little bit. Okay. So if I was your client or if I was a client, Sec, let me just open up. I'm gonna go into my apps. We'll open up the online application.
It's just technology.
Well, I am, as somebody who does this stuff all the time, it's it happens all the time that stuff goes sideways in the middle of a live demo.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna come back to that. What I want to do is we'll walk through a file. As I mentioned, I want to get you guys up and running so that you can work in the system, right? So there's really going to be three ways to get a deal into Scarlett, right? You're going to start a file from scratch. So you hit the new button, application type, application purpose, I'm the agent on deal, and we click next. So if that's the way you like to take an app, you get on the phone with your client and you take notes, or your client maybe fills out a PDF, or maybe the client comes into the office, or you meet them at the coffee shop and you want to start an application manually. That's how you're going to do that. I would suggest that most of you probably don't take apps that way. Okay. So the majority of the time, an application is going to come through the online application. And when it gets submitted to you, it's going to show up here in new. However, while the client is filling out the application, so let's say I'm your client and I take Go Transit to work. I work downtown and I come in from Mississauga every day. So I'm sitting on the train, I've got my phone, I open up your mortgage application and I start filling it out. Okay. As I'm filling out that application, it's going to show up here as a live deal. Okay. Even if I don't submit it to you. Okay. That's what we call work in progress application. Okay. So you'll actually know when a client is working on an application. That becomes really, really valuable for a client who starts the app but doesn't finish it. So let's say, for example, again, I'm taking transit to work. I'm halfway through the application and I get to my destination. I get to work, right? Time to get off the train. Well, I'm going to close down the application. And I'm a busy guy. I've got 2 kids. My wife is working as well. And so I forget to get back to that application. I forget to open it back up again, right? You are going to have a record of that right here. So you'll actually be able to open up the application, find my contact information, and then reach out. Okay. So anything that the client has put into that application up to that point will be made available to you. Okay. Once they finish that application and submit it, that file is going to move automatically from work in progress over to the new column. And you're going to get notified via email that you've received the new application. Okay. That's going to be your cue to start working on the file. Okay. So that's number 2. That's the second way that an application get into the system. And a third way is that we're going to make a copy of an existing application. So again, we have your expert data and your FINMO data already in the system. So when a past client calls, you'll be able to find that file using the search bar, right? So my client, maybe it's not as timely, not a good time to be using Tiger Woods' name, but my client is Tiger Woods. And I did a file with Tiger, and I did that deal back 3 years ago. I did it on Filogix, or I did it on Finmo. But it's time for him he's going to refi, or he's buying a new property. Let's say he's buying a vacation property, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that old file, right? That's going to bring that Filogix or that Finmo deal directly into Scarlett. And then I'm going to make a copy of that application. Okay. By copying that application, it's going to assign a new deal number to that file, right? So that's CAPM 2459. And now I've got a brand new deal in Scarlett ready to work. Okay. So that's the third way that you'll get a new deal into the system. You can see now there's that Tiger Woods file sitting here in the new column.
Sorry, Andrew, where did you go to get the file again? In Finmo?
So so you're gonna have access to search your Finmo database right here from the search bar.
Okay. Okay. I got you now.
But
I
but
perfectly
first,
access it here. Yep.
remember, but before you can do that, you've got to do the data sync, right? The Finmo data sync.
Right.
And I'm
With the eight.
up and so if you were
Yep.
to go into your account right now and search for a file, you wouldn't have access to it.
Yeah.
But if you
We
looked
gotta
up
do
somebody from Filogics, you would be able to find them.
Okay.
All right. Now let's open up a deal and talk a little bit about actually working the file. Okay. So again, we want to do a little orientation. What am I looking at? Let me just understand how to navigate before we actually go through and talk about using the system. So all of your navigation, once you've opened a file, runs across the top of the page. Okay. So we have different blocks or different sections of the deal. First is the application itself. And so that's the page that we're on right now. Right. So this is no different than any application. You get your subject property information, your down payment information, the mortgage information, the mortgage request, your fees, your participants, and internal notes, right? So these are the different sections of the application. You can just scroll from top to bottom, or you can use this drop down. These are all the different sections of the application. So for example, if I wanted to get back down to the down payment information, I click down payment, it brings me there. Okay. I want to get back to the subject property. I click subject property, it brings me there. One thing you'll notice is that our applicant, this is not all of their information, right? The applicant details, this is just a snapshot or a summary: income, assets, liabilities, net worth. If I want to make changes to the online application or to the applicant's details, I click the edit button, and that brings me to the applicant details, right? Address, employment history, income, and so on and so forth. Okay. I want to get back to the main application page. I hit the back button, and that brings me back here. Okay. Some of the cool things that we can do from here, though, I'll show you. So first of all, we've got a subject property of 123 Yonge Street, right? Purchase price is $1.5 million. We have a down payment of $400,000. So with that basic information, see here, Scarlett has started. Oops, didn't mean to click that. Scarlett Genius is here in my mortgage information. And what it's doing is it's starting to make recommendation as to which product is the best suit for that client. Okay. So I think what you'll see here. I'm just looking for a specific field. Yeah. So Scarlett started to make recommendation as to the best product and best fit. As you make changes, so let's say I actually change the occupancy type on this to rental, right? And I come back down here. I can refresh this. And it's going to change the recommended product. Okay. So this will always make recommendation to you once you've got some limited information. The more information that we bring into the file, the better that intelligence is going to become. Okay. I'm going to scroll back up to the top of the page. I'm going to add an applicant to the file. So we're just going to put in my wife. I'm just going to put in the name, email address. So I've put her in here as a secondary pair, but it might be that she's actually going to be part of the primary applicant, right? So I can switch her to be the primary borrower or make Tiger the primary borrower, or I can move her to another group. So I actually want her to be part of that group. I can easily move her over. And then this might actually be a cosigner, right? So I can change this person to a cosigner, and then I can edit their information. Maybe it's mom and dad, right? It might be that cosigner is somebody that I've done business with. So mom and dad are actually a past client. So I can use this button here, import, and again, search my database because I have access to my Finmo data. I have access to my Filogix data. And I can bring up dad because I did dad's mortgage 6 years ago, right? And I can import dad into the file. And now I don't need to go and send out an application to mom and dad. I've already got their information, so I brought it directly into the system. Okay, so really easy way to manipulate files. And then finally, I may not want to send, so for a specific lender, maybe I want to leave dad off the file. If I come down the page here, I'll show you something. You see applicants assigned to this mortgage. I can actually remove individuals. So when I'm running scenarios or I'm doing different submissions, maybe I don't want dad to appear on that submission. So instead of making a copy of the file and making a whole bunch of changes to it, I can just remove them from the mortgage. And then when I submit the file, Wayne's information doesn't go over. When I want to add him back, I simply enable him again and he's added back to the file. Okay, so lots of really good, efficient ways to manage your time and manage your business as you're working through a file. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is the applicant portal. Okay, so the applicant portal is going to be used for all of your back and forth communication with the client with respect to the online application. And I'm just going to open it up here and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So because I've got these people's information in the file already, maybe I took that information over the phone, right? So I was talking to Tiger, and Tiger told me that he works for Air Canada. He's making $85,000 a year, and he's a full-time salaried employee. And we have some nice conversation. He tells me about, when they want to be moving. We talk a little bit about rates and different products, and we finish our call. I don't have a full picture of Tiger's applicant profile yet. I do not have a completed mortgage application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my applicant portal and I'm going to use this generate pre-filled application button. And I'm going to select Tiger. And what this is going to do is it's going to send them an email with a link. And that link is going to send them a link to their mortgage application. They'll open it up and any of the information that I've already collected is already going to be in there. They will fill out the balance of that application and submit it to me, and then it's going to update the file. Okay. Similarly, if it's a past client and I'm making a copy of an old file, so I've got a full application from Tiger, but it's 4 years old. So I make a copy of that file. I come in here and I generate the pre-filled application and I send it to Tiger for him to update. Yes, I used to work at Air Canada, but now I work at WestJet. So I make that change. Okay. I often think about online application with repeat clients as it's like going to the doctor's office. You go to the doctor's office and every time you go in, they give you a clipboard and you have to write in all your information, your phone number, your address, your health card information. You fill the same thing out and you give it to them over and over and over again, right? They should have that information on file. They shouldn't need to make you fill it out over and over again. So that's what pre-filled app does for your clients, right? When you've already collected information from them, you can just send it back to them to review and update things that need to be fixed. Any questions about that? But the applicant portal does a lot more. So if I go down to the next tab, the documents tab, you can see here that we've got our 3 applicants and our subject property. I can actually auto-generate a list of documents that I need to request from Tiger. You see, what the system's done is it's scanned the applicant profile and it's found all of these different documents that we need. So we need photo ID, a void check. This is not part of the default. I've added this just for fun. We need some employment documents. We need a pay stub. We need an employment letter. There are some rental properties in his portfolio. So we need the rental lease agreement. We need the rental lease agreement for property 1 and property 2. We need the municipal tax bill for those properties as well. Right? And so on and so forth. Right? So now that I've created that, I could send that to the applicant. Right? Send it to Tiger. I hit send. He's going to click. This is going to create a link for him. He's going to click that link and it's going to open up the document request portal. So let me just see what email address I have on file for this guy, and I'll show you what this looks like. I just want to make sure it goes to an email address that I have access to. So I'm going to go straight to the applicant details. Okay, so that's the email address for Tiger Woods. Perfect. So let's actually do this together. Let's send him the document request. Okay. So I'm going to go to documents. I've hit auto generate, right? It's built the list of documents. Now I'm going to send this to Tiger using my agent profile. And I can change this email if I wanted to, but I don't want to. You see my signature is already there because I configured my email address. And I send that off to him. Okay. Open up Tiger Woods' email account. You can see Andrew sent him a mortgage document request. Gonna send me or send Tiger a verification code. Okay. And there are the documents that we've requested. Okay. So very, very simple process. The agreement of purchase and sale needs to be uploaded. So I'm just going to grab some random documents here. I don't need to have all the documents at once. I could send in just do a couple. So I only have 2 documents at the moment. So I'll submit those back to my broker. That's going to update the status of those documents. And they're going to show up in here. So I'm going to get notified via email as the broker on the file. I'm going to get notified that I've received documents for file 2459. Right, so let's just come back into you can see here, I've received this email. Please note that the following documents were uploaded for application 2459, the agreement of purchase and sale, and the rental lease agreement. Okay, so I'm going to open up that file 2459. You can see there's a red dot over the applicant portal. It's telling me exactly where to go. Under documents, I've got a subject property document. It's the agreement of purchase and sale. It has been uploaded and received by the agent. And under Tiger Woods, I have the rental lease agreement. Right? So what I can do is I can open these up and I can review them. Right? I can open it up, review the document. If I'm happy with the quality of that document, then I have the ability to mark that as accepted by agent. Right? Now, if we go back to Tiger, if Tiger Woods comes back in and is going to, I've got way too many windows open here. Computer's freaking out. Tiger comes back to load more documents. Get my verification code again. So it might be later on that day or later on that week where the client returns back to load more documents. They can see now that the agreement of purchase and sale has been accepted and that this one is still uploaded and received by the agent. So it has not yet been statused, right? You might choose to not update statuses. You might just choose to leave everything as uploaded / received by agent. We have a lot of people who choose to operate that way. That's fine. Okay. One last thing that I might want to do with these is I might want to set a series of reminders because the client is not necessarily going to have all their documents ready to go at once. So I can set reminders and I can choose the frequency on this. So I've chosen 2, 3, and 5 days after the documents have been sent or the request has been sent. Okay. That's locally for this specific application, but I can also update my default settings so that each file is managed the same way. Totally up to you. You can also customize the messaging that goes out to the client when the reminders go out. Okay. So that's the applicant portal. I think a really, really handy way for you to manage your documents. Anything that gets received here will ultimately also get stored here in documents and forms. And we're going to talk about that in a second. So I'm going to pause there because I think that's a big chunk of information. Do you guys have any questions about that?
So far, so good.
Anybody else? No questions? So we've looked at the application. We've looked at how we navigate the application. I've looked at some handy ways to move applicants around, bring applicants in from other files. You also have your mortgage summary tile here, which is giving you, your summary numbers for the file. I can choose to close that down if I don't want it on the page, or I can actually move it anywhere I want on the page. And as I scroll through the file and I'm working the file, it's going to follow me around. Okay. The last thing that you need to know about this section is validate, right? This is where you go to validate your transaction. It's going to identify errors in the file, and it's going to allow you to quickly action them. So I'm going to have a lot of errors in this file because it's not real. But for example, MLS listing, subject property, MLS listing cannot be blank. So I click on it. It brings me to that section. Yes, I move on to the next one, right? I keep just clicking on my validation errors as it brings me through them. I resolve them, I save and close, and then I'll be ready to submit that file to lender once everything has been validated. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to move from the application over to services, because one thing that we haven't done yet is we haven't pulled a bureau on this client, right? And so that's where I'm going to find my credit bureau section. We've also got a whole bunch of other stuff in here. Okay. I'm not as concerned about all this stuff today. I want to just point out kind of 2 core components. One is the credit bureau and the other one is FinTrack. Okay. So credit bureau is very, very simple. I click on this. I believe you guys are set up with Equifax and not TransUnion. If you guys have a TransUnion account, we can add it, but I think we're just set up with Equifax for the time being. So before I pull the bureau, obviously we need consent. I should point out that the online application, this includes consent. Okay. So when the client has come to you through the online application, you don't need to, get a consent form signed. You'll automatically have received consent. You can go ahead and start pulling your bureau. When you have started an application manually, right, or you don't have consent yet, you can download the consent form. You can email it to the client, have them sign it, or you could even send it for e-signature. Okay. Anyhow, once consent is received, you go ahead and hit start, choose the client's name. Your email, your Equifax account will populate by default. You click next. Authorization date. You're going to include the method. Maybe it was online application. And then do you want to copy the liabilities? Yes or no? Straightforward, very simple to use. You just go ahead and hit request bureau. And that's going to tap into the Equifax database for you. Okay. So simple enough. Okay. The next one is FinTrack. In FinTrack, what I'm going to show you on screen here is going to be, there's going to be a lot of stuff. And depending on the company's policies and procedures, you can use as much or as little of it as required by the brokerage. Okay. So where I want to start is the necessities. What is the most important and critical information that we can get out of here? So that would be your screening. So I've got a client, it's Tiger Woods, and I need to do two things. I need to document that I've verified their identification, and I need to screen them for political exposure, sanctions, and adverse media. Okay, so that's those two sections here: ID verification, PSA screening. Okay, when I'm doing ID verification, I'm going to tell the system, is this a person or a corporation? And then I'm going to mark down how I verified ID. Okay. There may be a time where you want to request ID verification electronically. So by clicking that button, you're going to be able to choose to verify ID via Equifax or via Verifast. Okay. These are the same services, just provided by different companies. You don't need to use Bundle B and Bundle C, for example. I recommend you use Equifax Bundle B. The reason being is that everything that is in Bundle A is also included in Bundle B. But Bundle B also includes what's called digital verification service. So I don't know how much you guys know about digital ID verification. This is the standard method of verifying ID, but does not always succeed in validating that person's identity. So what Bundle B does is it uses those two features, and then if these fail to verify ID, it will then graduate automatically to digital verification service. What that is Equifax will send the client a link where they go on it, they take a selfie, they take a picture of their driver's license, and it goes back to Equifax, and that verifies ID. Okay, it's not a requirement on any or all files, but it is the graduated process if these two methods fail. Okay. Again, because I don't know what the company's stated policies and procedures are, I can't comment on which method you guys have to use. You might just use the credit file method, or you might use the dual process method where you're gathering, different documents from the client in order to verify ID. But ultimately, if you need to do digital verification, you've got that service available to you there. Okay. And then PSA screening is a little bit more cut and dry. With every applicant, you need to understand, are they politically exposed or sanctioned, right? So what I'm going to do in that case is I'm going to hit screen applicant. Again, Bundle A or Bundle B, it doesn't matter. They are the same service effectively. Just one is from Equifax, one is from Verifast. I should point out that Equifax is cheaper, so most people tend to go with Equifax. Okay, you click next. Whoops. That's not going to work because that person doesn't exist. I shouldn't have submitted that. Another one of the joys of working in a test account. And then you're just going to document when you screen them. Are they politically exposed? Do they appear in any sanctions? Right? And there's your report. That's going to show you PEP screening, sanction screening, no. Source was Equifax, right? So there we have it. We're done. Okay. Now that might be the bare minimum that you need to do. Then what you do is you upload this to Docs and Forms as a PDF, and now you've got a recorded document that shows that you've done your FinTrack compliance. The rest of this stuff, the brokerage might say you don't need to use it or you do need to use it. I'm going to leave that up to the brokerage. But this records the transaction. So the transaction, was it a suspicious transaction? Yes or no? Terrorist property, and so on and so forth, right? So how was the transaction delivered? Is the source of funds known? What's the method of the down payment? And finally, was it difficult to verify the borrower's ID? And so on and so forth, okay? So once I have all of this done, I can then hit run on the overall risk assessment, and it decisions the file, right? So if they showed up on a sanctions list, or if they were politically exposed, and I hit run, the system might then generate a high risk or a medium risk, right? So this will automatically decision the file in terms of their risk assessment for you. And based on that risk assessment, when I save this, it will set a next review date as well for when I need to review that applicant based off of the company's policies and procedures. Okay. Questions around FinTrack? I know that it's still a somewhat new topic for the industry, so there may be some questions on this. We're good? Okay. So next step, I'm going to click on lender submission. This one, guys, nothing to see here, right? Almost exactly the same as everything you're used to doing in the past. Mortgage position first, application type, approval, lender. I'm going to choose my lender from this list. You got all your lenders here, guys. Okay. All your lenders are here. Okay. So maybe the lender in this case is going to be Scotia. Right. Do I need to add a submission agent to the file if I haven't done that already? And then I'm going to, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm going to generate notes. Instead of writing all my lender notes, I'm going to hit this generate notes button. And you see, these are all the different sections of the application. So I can actually insert them all into my lender notes. Hit OK. There you go. My lender notes are written for me. You can do a final validation. You could write your lender notes yourself if you wanted to, but it's not necessary. Or you could write this part and then you can make some edits to them. Right? Up to you how you want to use that. You'll go ahead and hit submit. Now, important to point out, the reason I chose Scotiabank is because they are one of the main offenders of this. You will know today if you're using Filogix or you're using Finmo, when you hit submit on a deal to Scotiabank and Scotia responds with their approval, you don't get that approval back into your system, right? You have to go through the Scotia portal or you have to go through your email. That is the same lenders are the same offenders on Scarlett as they are on other systems, right? So quite literally in the submission process, nothing's going to change there, right? You're going to look for your lender response the same place you've always looked for that lender response. Okay. I'm going to jump out of this deal and go to something that has already been through submission so that I can show you something. Pull this file up, maybe it's a good one. If I go back to lender submission here, once the file's been submitted, so I'm in lender submission, your submission history is captured below, right? So your lender response will come back here and you'll be able to view it and accept it if you want. Or if you need to add a manual response, you can do that here as well. Okay, so manual response gets added. You fill out the details of that lender response and the lender notes. You hit submit and it adds it to the file. Questions there? Okay. The last section that I want to talk about for the purpose of you're getting started in Scarlett is the documents and forms section. So far we've been through the applications, we've been through the services in Credit Bureau and FinTrack, we've been through a lender submission. The last thing I'm going to look at is documents and forms. And you'll notice that in here, there's already a few things in here, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But what documents and forms is it's cloud storage that is deal specific. So I'm still inside deal 2459. So that is to say every single file has its own dedicated document storage facility, right? And so from here, a number of things can happen. But primarily, I'm going to generate forms in here. My disclosure to borrower, my letter of direction, if I want to generate a mortgage application, they can all be created from here. So I'm going to go through either general forms, so things like a disclosure to borrower, a finder fee disclosure, a letter of direction, the mortgage application, right? I can select all the documents I need to create. Hit next. And this is going to walk me through the creation of these forms. I'm not going to make you guys watch me fill out a disclosure to borrower. But here's one cool thing that I'll show you. I'll use this as an example. The brokerage has placed over 50% of their business with, the brokerage has acted for X number of lenders. Let's say that number is 20, right? So what I can do when I fill this out the first time, and there may be some more fields that I'm going to fill out, I'm going to save that as default content. So the next time on my next file, when I go to create my next disclosure to borrower, I don't have to fill that stuff out again. I'll generate the document. Finder's fee disclosure, generate document. Letter of direction, generate document, and boom. They're all stored here in documents and forms. I also have a FinTrack folder that's already here. That's because when I did my FinTrack reporting, you'll remember I did that and I generated the report. What that's done is it's created my compliance form and it's stored it in the file, right? So everything that I documented on that file is all captured here for me. Okay. The PEP and sanctions report also stored here. Right. If I had already pulled a bureau, there will be a bureau folder here with the documents stored in it. If I have generated MPP, a folder will be created in here, documents stored in it. If I have requested clients' bank statements and they've sent them back to me electronically, they will be stored in here. And then finally, request documents. These are the documents that Tiger has sent me via the online application. So through this process, when he loaded these documents to me, they came back into the documents and forms folder, request documents, right? So earlier, while we were working in the application, we were communicating with the client via the document portal, right? We were saying that we've accepted these documents or we've not accepted them. We've sent the request. We set our reminder settings. And so all of that interaction on the file happens from the application, but ultimately all of those documents end up stored here in documents and forms. Okay. Now there are a number of things that we can do from here. But the thing I want to point out most importantly is e-sign. Okay, so the disclosure to borrower, if I want to send it for e-sign, I can do that, right? Or maybe I want to send a signing package. So I'm actually going to generate a few documents together. So I'm going to take those 3 documents and I'm going to go to actions and I'm going to merge those documents together and I'm going to call it signing package. Okay, and I'm going to, here are the 3 documents that I'm merging. And I want to start with my finder fee disclosure and I want my disclosure to borrower to go last in that merging process. I'll hit merge. Those documents have now been successfully merged. You can see there, signing package. It's left the original copies as their own separate documents, but now I can launch into eSign. And that seems to be a more efficient way than to send each document one by one for signing, right? I should point out that eSign is not a free feature in the system, right? So everything that we've looked at so far, there's no cost associated to it. eSign is a little different. So eSign is through DocuSign, and it's a per use. So you don't need to subscribe, but if you want to use our eSign, then you pay on a per use basis, which is $2.50 per envelope. So every time you send a signing package, for example, it would be $2.50. There's no monthly requirement. There's no reoccurring charge. It's a per use. Think of it like a pay as you go plan. Okay. So eSign is a paid feature within the system that you if you want to use it. If you already have your own eSign system, you're using Adobe Sign or OneSpan or Sign Now, you can continue to use that. What you do instead of going to eSign here, you can download the document out of the system and load it into your favorite eSign system. Okay. All right, so I think that's a lot of information for one day. Oh, you got a good number of people on the call. That's great. What I want to do is, I know that Joe sent me some questions, so I just want to review some of this. So let me just go through these one by one. How do we print an application? Well, very easily. One second, I'm going to reshare my screen. Share my screen. Okay, so the first question was, how do we print an application? Right? So here I created in documents and forms, I created the mortgage application. I can either download it onto my computer or I can just hit preview. Select print. Okay. Next question is best practice for updating the file status. That's a really good question. So with our system, you can only update the status of a file that is native to Scarlett. So all of your old files, you'll have to figure out your statusing on Finmo or on Filogix. Whatever those statuses are will come through into Scarlett and will automatically be reflected here on the dashboard. But for Scarlett deals, they will move automatically from work in progress all the way through to accepted. Okay, so work in progress is when the client is filling out the online application. When they submit the online application, it automatically moves to new. When you hit submit on your lender submission, automatically moves into submitted. If the file, depending on the lender's technology on their end, a file might sit in pending before you receive your lender response. It's going to either submit, it's either going to sit in submitted or pending. And then when that lender response comes back, it's going to move into approved. When you accept the lender response, it's going to automatically move into accepted. From there forward, so these statuses here, right? These are manual moves. Change status, move it into closed and funded, into paid and finalized. I'm not going to comment on how you guys want to manage that because some companies don't use all of these statuses, right? So it's going to ultimately be up to you guys how you want to status these things. But for the purpose of things like managing renewals, we don't need to have really accurate statuses in Scarlett because we can search through data much more accurately than most systems. Okay. Connecting the CRM using Zapier. So we have a Zapier integration right here. You get your API key, and then you do your Zapier integration locally through your personal technology. I can't comment on what you guys are using or how that gets done, but that's something that would be owned by the brokerage or by the individual agent. But to get your Zapier integration key, you go to the settings, go to Zapier, copy to clipboard, and you're on your way. We can also provide you or furnish you with a full API, which is a more technical integration, but allows for a lot more in-depth integration. Again, that's something that would be done by a technical resource with Rachel. How to use network IDs. So, Joe, maybe you can chime in on this for me. Does everybody have a Symbic ID as well as a RateUp ID?
No, they don't have any Symbic. They don't have the Symbic ID.
Only Alias.
Yes.
Okay. So if you need to leverage the Symbic ID, and I'm going to leave that up to you guys to communicate, what that means to leverage the Symbic ID. I'm going to assume that you guys are all with me when I say leverage the Symbic ID. What you'll do is you can actually add Ali as a co-agent, right? Or you can actually make him the submission agent. That's going to make your file visible to Ali on his account. And then he's going to actually change the ownership of the file. It's going to get moved from a rate shop file and it's going to get flipped into a Symbic ID file. Okay. So he's familiar with all that process. But that's what needs to get done. And then that's really more of of something that would be for Ali as opposed to the group. The easiest way to do that actually would be to co-broker it. So you go like this, co-broker, okay, co-broker now. right? And you're gonna go with, oh, firm name is gonna be CIMB. See, is that it? Right. So you see when I look up Ali, I look up under Symbic, he's got a Symbic ID and a rate shop ID. Right? This is a different Ali. Right? I'm gonna co-broker to his Symbic ID. Okay. And then he'll pick up that file and he'll do the submission accordingly. Okay. So I think ultimately the question is, where did I go to do that? And I go to the application, and from the application, I scroll down to the participants on the deal, and there's that co-broker button right there. Okay. So I think that's the how to use network IDs and how to co-broker to another brokerage, how to print compliance package and compile for signing. We talked about that already. How to edit sent compliance. I don't know what that means. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same that you've discussed earlier, going through the letter of direction, the
Okay.
borrower disclosure, client
Got it.
consent, things like that.
Okay. How to generate commission trade sheet. That will be done from the application. So there's a section in here called commissions, right? So you can get to there from the drop down commissions. Trade record sheet is right there.
Okay.
Commission trade sheet. Form 1 and investor disclosure. I think I showed you guys that. That was in documents and forms. You're going to generate your files here under new form. And instead of using the general list, you're going to have Ontario forms as well. There's your investor/lender disclosure statement. Okay. And cost of borrowing editing. I think we've covered that as well.
Yep, that's already
Sure.
covered. Yep.
So we have 5 minutes. Questions from the group that we didn't cover?
Yeah, on the letter of direction, I don't know where the section of brokerage brokerage fee will be edited, because it's just the box for additional instruction, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, that's in the application. So app section, fees.
Also, it will automatically capture whatever is um added here as brokerage fee.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And let's say you've created your letter of direction already and you forgot to put something in. Appraisal fee,
Yeah.
say $300, right? I'll add it. And then I just come back to documents and forms. Because I've already created it, I can just refresh the document. Okay.
Okay.
That way you don't have to create documents over and over again. Okay.
The client consent is
Anybody
also
else?
part of the forms.
Say that again, please.
The client consent, is it still, it's also part of the forms?
Client consent is actually part of the online application.
Okay.
And then it
What
gets captured. Won't be here because I didn't use the online application for this one. Let me just find a file that I used an online application for. Not always the easiest thing to find with this crappy data. Yeah. It's listed at the bottom of the application is the answer. I'm gonna have to dig through some files to find an example of it.
And can it also be added on the document and forms? Because we also have it, we also send it out for signing.
You send what out for signing?
The client consent.
That's what I'm saying is you don't need to. The online application captures it,
Okay.
right? So you don't need to get it signed. If you don't use the online application, then yeah, you can come in here and you can generate the client consent form and send it for signature.
Okay.
Right? But the online application, because they authenticate through two-factor authentication to log in, right? When they log in, they put their name in, their email address, it sends them a code. They put the code in and that authenticates them. When they finish the application, they give you consent. And that is from a compliance perspective, from a regulator perspective, is sufficient for consent to pull a bureau.
Okay, thanks. How about you guys? Do you have any questions for Andrew? I think that covers everything, Andrew.
Awesome. Right on time.
Okay, wonderful.
So I just want to remind everybody before we end the call, again, it's a lot of information to absorb in one sitting, and we've really only covered a small fraction of what we can do on Scarlett, which should be exciting to think what the possibilities are. I just want to remind everybody, Scarlett Mortgage Knowledge Base. Everything that we've done today, there are segments in here that will you're not going to remember everything. So it's okay. Andrew told me that I can generate documents this way. Go back to Scarlett Mortgage Knowledge Base and look it up, right? Lender submission, go back. Credit Bureau, go back and look it up if you can't remember. They're all there for you. And you can always reach out to our support team, which is support@scarlettnetwork.com. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Andrew.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time, Andrew. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Good.